Okay, so here's the napkin video that we've been talking about. This is the fabric that I purchased for my friend Rose. It's a rose print. It's her birthday and we're going to make a little celebration for her. So the first thing you do, I will tell you how to calculate out what you need for the amount of napkins you need. I have purchased enough fabric to make 12 napkins. So what I do first is, of course, wash the fabric. Washed and dried, however you're going to launder the napkins when they're finished so that you don't end up with any shrinking. So the next thing you want to do, instead of cutting, measuring and cutting, we're actually going to tear so that we're always on the grain. So I start out by making a cut on we want to remove this selvage edge. So I remove that selvage edge by just making a cut and then tearing it all the way, the whole length of the fabric. Okay, so now I've torn both of the selvage edges off, and I want to make sure that the cut edge that was cut in the fabric store is also on grain. So I make a little cut there, and I'm going to tear this side too. And when I get done with that, I'll tear the other end so that it will end up with a perfectly squared piece of fabric that's on grain. Okay, so now the fabric, each edge has been torn, so it's all completely on grain. I figure the napkin size by half the width of the fabric, and this fabric is about 44, 45 inches wide, so a half a width would be about 22 inches, and that's the length, the width of the napkin that I'm going to use. So what I do now is fold this in half and make another cut on that half, and then I'm going to tear that all the way down so that I've got a half of my entire length. And this will keep everything on grain and perfectly squared. Okay, so now I have my two strips of fabric that are the width of the napkin, the finished napkin. And in order to make them square, I'm simply going to fold it and then make a snip and then tear that off. And what you end up with is a perfectly squared, on grain piece of fabric that is ready to be sewn into a napkin. Okay, so now we have our piece of fabric that is perfectly squared because we tore it on grain instead of cutting it. And now what we need to do is cut off the corners. So I like to fold it in half, match up the corners, and then I cut off just a little bit on each corner, about that big. Do on this side too. Doesn't have to be totally precise, but that's about the size that I cut off. And then you end up with a square with cut corners. Then we're going to go to the ironing board, and most of the work is done there. Okay, so now we have our square with our cut corners. And I'm at the ironing board. I've ironed this out completely. And now we want to just take and fold the edge about a ½ inch down and press it all the way across. You're going to do the same thing on all four sides. You're going to see a nice miter when you're pressing this. Don't get excited, we're not quite there yet, but do this all the way around. Inch around. It looks beautiful. And now I'm going to take and fold about the same amount you cut off. I'm going to fold it up and press that each corner like that. I'm going to stick a pin in each of the corners. I'm going to do them, each of them just like that. So you're going to have all four corners looking like that. Okay, so as you can see, I'm working on the wrong side of the fabric. The finished product will be the right side of the fabric. So we're always sewing, working on this inside portion. So I'm getting ready to put my first corner in the machine, and as I get close to where the needle is, I'm going to fold this over one more time, and I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to remove the pin that I placed in that corner, and it's just a straight stitch all the way down. To the next corner. When you get to that corner, you'll see where the pin is inserted. It's pretty much on the angle of where the miter is going to occur, so you fold the other side up, which will form your mitered corner. I sew right into that last edge of that.
I can't see that.
And then I remove the pin. I sew 1 or 2 stitches into this fold, and then I turn the corner. And we're approaching our starting point, coming up to where we started. I'm going to finish with a lock stitch, and we're done. So here we are. We've ironed our napkin. It's completely finished and perfect in every way. Very happy with the way it came out. So for my friend Rose and her birthday, we're going to gather this up and put it in this rose napkin ring that I made. You've seen my napkin ring tutorials, but that's what's going to look like for her party. You don't have to do all the rose theme. I have this beautiful dragonfly napkin ring that my friend Kathy got for me, and it looks beautiful on there as well. Or you could do something really simple, like just a plain gold beaded ring. Just elegant and simple and very pretty.